So now I'd like to introduce a rare mom whose story and family have been the reason actually why we pushed for the whole genome sequencing bill this year. I think she's here now, right? Oh, Corinne. There you are. Every time I've heard her story, I've just teared up. I try to do a commercial for Senator Patty Murray, and I was trying to tell their story, and I broke in tears. And so I called her one day and I said, I feel like I have to meet you. And I hesitated to ask her, but she said yes, thankfully. And so we've made a mother's group now from that. So I'm very excited to have you here, Grant.
Work this thing. Okay, there we go. Many families are told to go home and make memories with their child before they die from their disease. But we were given hope for gene therapy to start soon, which is much worse because with hope, you're not able to find acceptance of this disease because you rely on hope that you'll beat it. But that hope starts to fade away with each passing year. Companies continuously postpone submitting their investigational new drug application to the FDA for approval to start trials. All the while, you watch your child fall off the cliff, regressing so fast you do not recognize them. My daughter Evelyn was a typically developing baby and toddler, meeting her milestones. At 2.5, I noticed a speech delay. I was encouraged to follow my motherly intuition and start therapy. Over the next year, Evelyn began hitting other children, poking eyes, throwing objects, screaming, eating random items like crayons, dirt, paint, sand. I had her tested for pica, an eating disorder. She would become overstimulated and with huge meltdowns in new environments. I noticed many symptoms of autism, but was told again, she's a toddler and will grow out of these habits. I sought out another specialist, diagnosing her with sensory processing disorder. Literally that same week, she had her first tonic-clonic grand mal seizure. She was referred to a neurologist who connected her seizure with the behavioral delays, recommending a free genetic testing from Invitae called Behind the Seizure for children under 8 years of age who have had an unprovoked seizure. While my husband and I do not have any family histories of seizures, we had no clue what genetic testing really meant. On October 30th, 2019, the genetic doctor called us in to inform us Evelyn had CLN2 Batten disease, a lysosomal storage disorder. Evelyn is missing an enzyme that breaks down cellular waste in her central nervous system, leading to cell death and neurological degeneration. The doctor presented us with an enzyme replacement therapy called Brineura from BioMarin. She also informed us gene therapy was close to going to clinical trials. I left that office with so much hope that Evelyn would survive this terminal disease. Since Brineura treatment was not yet offered in Washington, we moved our family down to Children's Hospital of Orange County, California, where we prepared Evelyn for brain surgery to install the port they used for enzyme replacement therapy. On December 1st, she received her first treatment. After 3 weeks, we returned to Washington and settled into our new lifestyle, taking Evelyn to every therapy available and never-ending hospital appointments. One of those therapies is hippotherapy, which involves horseback riding to help Evelyn maintain her core and stability muscles. Having grown up riding horses myself, it was always an experience I wanted to share with her. Evelyn was lucky enough to have a neurologist who could officially diagnose her with autism, granting us access to Applied Behavioral Analysis Therapy, ABA. A month before COVID put the state into lockdown, Evelyn started ABA therapy for 40 hours a week in our home for 18 months. She provided preschool, worked on the aggressive emotional behavior outbursts, fine motor skills, speech, adaptive skills, assisted me with outings as Evelyn liked to run off, as I also had a 1-year-old with me. This intensive full-time therapy prevented Evelyn from regressing much longer than normal. Her toddler years were spent hiking with me, exploring nature. She loves throwing rocks in the water, a desire I hope she never loses. Seeing her face light up, her screech of happiness as we approach a lake melts a parent's heart. The first couple of years were literally uneventful. Attending therapies, receiving Brineura treatment, and a full-time aide at school ensured Evelyn the best chance at maintaining her skills. It appeared like we had control over her condition until she seemed to hit a plateau. Her seizures continued to change and worsen. We'd be at a park, having a great day, full of laughter, alert, climbing upstairs and going down slides, when an atonic drop seizure would cause Evelyn to smack face first into the cement. Her day was ruined. Tears from the pain of falling, blood from busting her teeth and lip open, and the post-elliptical state afterwards, causing her to fall asleep immediately. I have PTSD from so many of those falls. I need to constantly hold her hand or arm to ensure her safety. Batten disease continues to rear its ugly head, always keeping us on our toes. We are constantly working with our medical team to change medications and dosages until we find the right combination that have her seizures under control. Currently, throughout the day, she takes 4 different seizure medications. Evelyn and I would both be in tears daily as I held her down to take every oral medication 3 to 5 times a day. She ultimately had to have surgery for a G-tube so that I no longer had to fight her for her medication. With each medication change, Evelyn would become very sedated. This led to long periods of inactivity, causing her to lose some of her basic skills to where she no longer now relies on a caregiver for her every need. Her mobility continues to decline, requiring a gait walker, wheelchair for long distances, or an adult near her to prevent falling. Even though Brineura is approved to slow the loss of ambulation, our children need more. Gene therapy research for CNL2 started over 20 years ago. Weill Cornell University have proven safe 2 gene transfer vectors in 2004 and 2010, dosing over 20 children. Due to lack of funding, research was halted for 11 years until the rights were purchased by a new biotech company. A second biotech company received funding in 2015 for CNL2 gene therapy. When Evelyn received her diagnosis, the genetic doctor informed us gene therapy would be starting human trials in the next 6 months. We would eagerly wait for updates from these companies. However, the updates never provided us with anything other than we were experiencing setbacks. After 2 years of being told just 6 more months until a new drug application is submitted to the FDA, the CNL2 community were fed up. 2021 updates revealed more delays on the gene therapy program. The FDA had placed a clinical hold on the request to start human trials. Gene therapy for CNL2 was at a standstill, and our children were in the middle, suffering for it. We learned about a patient listening session, a request submitted to the FDA to allow patients to describe their rare disease experiences and perspectives, allowing the FDA the opportunity to connect and better understand what is most important to different communities and their individual health and treatment needs. On March 2022, 8 CNL2 parents were granted their patient listening session with the FDA. The FDA needed to know that yes, CNL2 patients have Brineura, and we are grateful for it to slow down the regression, allowing more years together, but it is not enough. They needed to know the challenges we face medically, financially, mentally, and physically, watching our children decline till fully dependent on a caregiver. Our children are losing the battle, losing their basic skills, muscle control is diminishing as dystonia takes hold, and seizures continue to worsen over the years. Brineura does not reach the eyes. Children continue to go blind, which affects their confidence, mobility, and overall joy in life. The meeting was an hour filled with patient stories and 3 families who have both their children diagnosed with CNL2. I spoke about the mental health impacts a degenerative disease has on the patient and the families. Slowly, the child you knew disappears. The dreams you had for them, gone. They become physically unable to participate in group sports due to tremors leading to unbalanced coordination and body movements. Soccer and dance are replaced with PT, OT, and speech appointments. Soccer shin guards are replaced with ankle foot orthotics. Football helmets and skateboards are replaced with seizure helmets and wheelchairs. There's a loss of childhood friendships, as typical children no longer want to play with the kid who doesn't talk, doesn't understand the concept of tag or hide and seek, and is slow to keep up climbing the stairs. It's heartbreaking watching our children so excited to see other kids at the playground only to be avoided due to their differences. A quote from one of Evelyn's earliest friends, "What's wrong with her? Why doesn't she talk or respond to my questions or play with us anymore?" There's also alertness exhaustion from seizures because even with Brineura, they still happen. Mental fatigue from the 8-hour hospital day every other week to administer Brineura is draining on our children. Our children can't endure this lifestyle for the rest of their lives. They need a better solution, and that's gene therapy. After the FDA meeting, I continued to advocate looking for any webinar or meeting the FDA was having to participate in them. In the fall of 2022, the FDA announced a patient-focused meeting, a patient perspective on gene therapy products. Major rare disease organizations and foundations represented this meeting to enlighten the FDA that the rare disease community understand the risk of gene therapy and what we as parents are consenting to. We understand the risks of doing nothing for our children. My opinion was given on the patient involvement in clinical study design and execution. In my experience, biotech companies have done poorly to reach the rare disease communities to involve them in design and execution. On different occasions, I have informed biotech companies that the FDA wants patients involved in the meetings with them. We want our voices heard and that we are willing to accept the risks because without the risks of trying, we have already failed. In 2 weeks, Evelyn goes into surgery for her second brain surgery to replace the port that is providing her with access for more time. However, with the degenerative disease, we are always racing against time. After 3.5 years of waiting, the clinical criteria for gene therapy for the eyes was released in Europe. Evelyn is now too old to participate in a trial, disqualified. The fear of Evelyn losing all of her eyesight will now become a reality. As she ages, our hope for gene therapy is diminishing. With the current economy, biotech companies are unable to secure funding to finish research or start trials. They are stopping, choosing to cut the ultra-rare CNL2 program over large rare diseases, halting our hopes, our dreams. We continue to wait, but at a certain point, it will become inhumane to provide Evelyn with a drug to lock her in her degenerative state. Time is of the essence, and we will continue to use that time to keep a smile on Evelyn's face and make lasting memories. This October, during her favorite holiday season, Evelyn's Make-A-Wish trip is being granted to Peppa Pig theme park in Florida, one of her 2 favorite cartoons. She deserves to experience nothing but happiness during her short time on this earth. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I told you she always makes me cry. Okay. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And sorry, I can't talk about it. Okay, I would like to introduce Owen. Is Owen here? Oh, is he asleep? um, thank you. I'm just gonna say one thing more about Owen. He sometimes, I already said that he's quite an advocate when we lobby and we have legislative meetings, but he also protests during our meetings, and it's just perfect, and it just fits right in, and they all love that. So just thank you, Owen, for brightening our days when we see you, and you're so loved. And Evelyn, you're so loved too. Okay, so now, who is the next moderator? I'm sorry, I lost track of it. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna have all the next group come in for the Northwest Rare Disease Coalition Task Forces. So we have Carrie, Christina, Jesse, Mary, and Marissa. Please come to sit down. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so that's okay. Oh, sorry. One more. There you go. Okay, thank you. Okay, so first I'm going to start with one of our task forces is the mental health task force. So I would like to introduce the co-chairs of the mental health task force. Oh, there's the other person. Dr. Carrie Cunningham Rosbeck is a physician, mental health nurse practitioner. She is the parent of a young adult daughter born with a rare genetic condition. Carrie is a parent advocate who is committed to improving the lives of individuals with physical and intellectual disabilities and their families and caregivers. Thank you, Carrie. And then Christina is also the other co-chair of the Mental Health Task Force. Christina Newell is a Washington State licensed mental health counselor, a clinical mental health specialist, and a patient with spinal cerebral ataxia, a rare neurodegenerative disease. As a person able to personally understand rare diseases and chronic pain, Christina has a unique ability to support her clients. She was also a former art teacher. It has been exciting to see these two ladies, their projects grow, and I just love working with you two so much. So thank you. I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, I'll go first. As Carolina said, I'm Dr. Carrie Cunningham Rosbeck. I'm a doctor of nursing practice. And I recently retired from clinical practice and went back to school to get my doctoral degree in policy development, legislation, and disabilities. So some of my research looked at the impact of chronic stress on the health and welfare of caregivers. And as we've all heard today, the stresses associated with caregiving can be overwhelming. My daughter was born with a rare genetic syndrome, Cornelia de Lange syndrome, or CDLS. We almost lost her when she was 10 months old because a healthcare provider ignored our concerns. And I think someone mentioned earlier about having PTSD. Yes, from all having to give your child all these treatments. And I still have flashbacks to the day that I thought our daughter was going to die. She's doing okay now. She's 31 years old, and she lives in Tumwater in a house. She and her housemate receive 24-hour support, and we're very lucky. She has wonderful caregivers. So I think about social support. Social support is the more informal support that we receive, and I think there has been research that shows that social support can decrease an experience of stress, can enhance a sense of self, and actually ameliorate some of the physical issues or the concerns that come up for caregivers, like hypertension, chronic pain, sleep disorders, depression, I don't know if I said cardiac disease, but even cardiac disease. And so social support to me means like this, coming together as parents and caregivers and individuals living with disorders. Support groups, churches, synagogues, schools. Those are accessible, however more difficult for those of us who have children, loved ones who have rare disorders. And that's why the work of the coalition is so important, and the work that relates to rare disease across the United States. I'm very excited to be a part of the coalition and to be a co-chair with Christina for the Mental Health Task Force, because I feel we as caregivers, if we can find ways to be more mentally healthy, then that in turn affects our loved ones, our loved ones with rare disorders, but also other members of our family. And I've seen it make a difference in my family. When my daughter was able to live in a supportive environment, be loved, it allowed us then to have time to heal and to let go of a bit of what we had to do for years until she was able to move. So that's my interest in the coalition, is how do we enhance the mental health of caregivers, given that we know from hearing everybody's stories or experiencing them ourselves that they're not going to go away. We have to learn how to live with what it is that's visiting us in our lives. And so the coalition has developed, if you go to northwestrare.org, you'll find a button, a link that says mental health program, and you click on that, it takes you to a page, and it has all kinds. It has programs, but it also has classes, and it has support groups, and it's constantly updating, which I think is so wonderful, because so many sites don't update. And so you can go there and Therapeutic art, and that's something that Christina is involved with. It's like taking your experience and creating something beautiful out of it. So now I'll pass this off to Christina.
Hello. Okay. It's the end of the day, and I have brain fog. I have a mental health disorder. I have a spinocerebellar ataxia. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the day. I'm still here. Cool. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Carolina, please weigh in if you have additions to our genetic testing text. task force. So y'all have heard our recent panel, and so the focus of the task force is really to address issues of access and create resources. Carolina, some of the things that struck me about some of our conversations we've had up until this point is really the hub that you and many of parents in this room serve as sort of a resource hub, like, oh, this question, to answer questions, and that people have to know to get to you to get those answers. And so I think one of the goals of the task force is to create a hub where we can have those answers more readily accessible. And then the other piece of it was really our efforts around legislation this year. So focusing on getting access to testing through the whole genome sequencing bill. The original bill actually had language included specific to improving access for genetic counselors, so telehealth services, particularly for providing support for families around the state. In Eastern Washington, it's different than coming right here in Seattle. So anyway, I think those are really, it's access and advocacy in that way. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Carolina?
Say that another part of we're trying to do educational things around genetic testing, and so like Jesse was saying, and I think we're really trying to focus on physicians, patients, and payers, and so just doing 2 to 3 minute videos on why is a genetic counselor important? What is the value? What's the difference between a geneticist and a genetic counselor? And so just those kind of questions for patients. And then, for a physician is how to refer a patient to genetic testing. Some of those, but trying to do it in a 2 to 3 minute video that we can share as well with payers and legislators, and that something that is more tangible time frame for them to see. Because sometimes they don't have, an hour of webinar to watch, and so that's kind of where one of the things we're trying to do with this task force is create an educational opportunity for those 3 types of groups, and also just using the resources that are already available through all these wonderful people that you've been hearing today, actually. And they were making videos today while you guys were listening, and so I think that's all I would add to that.
Hello, my name's Mary. Incidence and prevalence, such an easy thing to figure out, right? It's not. We have not done all the things these people are doing. I'm actually here to ask for help. Incidence and prevalence is a huge puzzle. We don't have an insurance code that says rare disease. We're all in tiny groups. When I will go ask legislatures for tons of things. I'll go to ask WSU for a rare disease center of excellence and do all that stuff. But when they come to me and ask how many people does it affect and what's going to cost, and I don't have an answer, it becomes very difficult. So we're trying to exhaust all the options. Medicaid, who are all the major pediatric hospitals. Inslee just passed a law where you get to protect more of your health insurance rights. Great for everybody else. Dang it for us, right? Because we want more, and there's definitely organizations. We have RareX, we have Gene D, we got, and they're almost splintered as well. So you would think prevalence, let's just do it. Let's pull all our information together, and this is going to be an easy checky box. It's been very difficult, and we are trying to exhaust all the options just to prove to the legislators how hard of a thing it actually is. It's a hard puzzle. If anybody has amazing ideas, I'm open to all of them.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can ask DDA because they...
Yeah, DDA would be Medicaid.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering if you can ask someone.
Yeah, the suggestion was to ask DDA.
DDA, well, they up until recently haven't counted the people that don't have paid services.
Yeah, they have no service list.
Which is a huge amount of people, but I think they've started counting them now, so you might be able to get information that way.
They are, and then we're trying to say, hey, if you're on the DDA wait list, if you see 2 doctors, does that count as a rare disease? Undiagnosed, like, we're just in a kind of a big ball of information and trying to whittle it down to say how difficult this is so that we can prove to the legislators we need some funding and we need some help. If you're interested at all.
And then you got a contact just yesterday, right, with the lady that's...
Yeah, I think there's enough
with
people here that would be interested in this as well, because you all need to go back to other people and say, this is why we should study this. This is why we should put money towards this. Like, this is a bigger problem that affects us all if we want to move things forward. And I don't have the perfect solution, but we're trying to check things off the box that aren't the perfect solution.
And I think too with the Washington Rare Disease Advisory Council, that the bill that we're trying to pass, I think it includes an incidence and prevalence report. And so UW is taking it on, so we're pretty excited. But yeah, I think there's just many ways in which we can attack it, right? Like with Providence, and then, Department of Health, UW, and so just the combination. So we're just trying to get some of this information started. But the RDAC is also one tool that will help us with incidence and prevalence.
Am I up? I'm Marissa Dunn, and I'm with Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And I cover a 10-state region that ranges from Oregon to Missouri. And so a lot of the states that I cover are rural. And so something that I've seen firsthand is patients living in rural areas. And I think others have mentioned underserved communities today. And so we get to address that with this. The Rural Rare Disease, what do we call it? Community project.
Rural Rare Disease Community Project.
But really thinking about patients that live in an underserved community or in a rural area that are diagnosed with a rare disease, and they may be one of very few in that geographic area. And so being able to connect patients with each other, building community, sharing stories, and focusing on different issues that they might collectively be able to connect about. And so you can, of course, reach out to Carolina, but really I want to say, thinking about never underestimating the power of your journey, your story as a patient, and making sure you tell that story, whether it's with a legislator, it's with the medical community, but don't underestimate your own power as a patient. And that's what the Rural Rare Community Project is aiming to do, to bring those voices from the rural areas.
And we've partnered with a couple other states in this. Actually, Marissa started that. So with RDII and with Texas Rare, we've partnered in this kind of mission, and so we share resources with each other. So it's really nice to be able to communicate too with other states and share information. But also, one of the things that we're doing with this project that I'll add to what Marissa was saying is that we're making videos of rare disease. It's coming up soon. We're really excited, but that's where the song that we shared today. But we're making small videos of rare disease stories, and with also from a research point and from a patient point, and just short little stories, and we hope to have them at 5th grade level so that we can share these at schools and in rural communities to create awareness, and so that kind of I don't know if anybody's seen Mystery Science, but it's kind of like that, where they're very interactive and fun graphics, and that really that anybody could benefit from. So that's one of our projects that we're working with this group. Thank you so much to this great group of people that, and just all of you for being here. I don't know what the next thing is. Are you next? Oh, okay. So yeah, so Joshua's gonna close us out, but thank you so much to all these people for helping and putting so much time into it and all their wonderful work. And
yeah, so that's everything for the day. For us, we just want to thank all of you for being here, all of our task force leaders, all of our volunteers that supported for today, all of our sponsors, and of course, huge thank you to Carolina for everything she did. This would not have happened without you.